in line, but I also know we have to get done to get people back to work, so I'm kind of trying to do a little dance here. So I'm gonna start in with preliminary here, a few things, and as you're lunching along, just kind of lunch and learn here a little bit. But we're very excited to share with you again some insights about what has been going on with our youth during this pandemic. A lot of kind of the silent suffering that our kids go through. But there's hope, and we're going to be sharing with you then the hope that Character GPS has is to help our kids overcome some of these challenges. So I have a little video that kind of explains kind of the purpose of GPS. So we can watch this. Some have already seen this a few times, but we'll kind of get everyone on the same page here.
Our young adults are surrounded by negative influences from the media and problems like bullying, disrespect, and lying. Character GPS can help our communities get back on track. Students are engaged in 8 weeks of interactive multimedia workshops that focus on real-life application of 16 character values. Lessons include practical exercises, action plans, and assessments that help integrate these values into thoughts and actions. Let's all work together to steer our children and communities toward a better way.
So we had a vision 10 years ago about the needs of our kids, and you're going to hear today how that need has just multiplied. So we're going to, again, better understand some of these challenges, but then we'll explain what was the design behind Character GPS and then how it has grown over these 10 years. And we'll be kind of sprinkling in some of our pieces of the 10 years, people that have been on the team helping us along the way. So try to get as many of the faces that are here today so that you can see that so many people have been contributing to our combined effort to help our kids. So one of the things that we realized are that when kids act out, whether it's bullying, cheating, stealing, these are the symptoms of the underlying needs that our kids are struggling with. And what we have found is that the last one there, low self-esteem, the mental health issues that our kids are going through, and we'll be explaining a little more in depth again just how dramatically that has been impacted here during this pandemic. But when kids don't feel good about themselves, it's a real challenge for them. It holds them back on their development. So thinking back now, we've been actually having our annual event for 5 years. So this is the 5th annual event we've had out of our 10 years for Character GPS. And our first event, was a breakfast, so we were just kind of experimenting and stuff. But Lieutenant Kurt Royka, we asked to partner with to help us get some perspective from a police. You know, what are the statistics? What's going on? If we can measure some of the things going on with kids that translates into the problems that we're seeing. So we appreciate Kurt was with us for several years, and now Kurt has handed the baton off to our new police representative. With a little fanfare, Officer Chris DePaulis is going to be with us here this morning. And actually, I know Chris because he's our neighborhood watch coordinator. So I've had the privilege of working with Chris for several years. And boy, he's a great defender for our community. He's proactive, and he's also a great father, husband, and family man as well. So I was trying to think of the appropriate music to come up. So this is kind of what I was thinking, Chris. How's that sound? Bullets bounce off Chris DePaulis. I'm going to hand Chris DePaulis here. Give a big hand.
Thank you very much. I would have sent you a better picture. It looks like I'm yelling at your neighborhood. Lock your doors! Lock your doors! Jeez, people, lock your doors! How's everybody doing? So yeah, I've known Jeff and Deb for a while, going out and doing their neighborhood watch. My name's Chris DePaulis, by the way, assigned to Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office District 1, where for years and years and years I ran the neighborhood watch program at a community outreach. And then when I went back to the district, they said, hey, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies and all that, why don't you go do the neighborhood watch? So it would be a CRD. So my technical title is Community Resource Deputy for the Northdale area, and that puts me right there where Jeff and Deb are. And so we help facilitate their neighborhood watch and different things that come up. So in the conversation with Jeff about today, he actually invited me last year, and because of COVID, the office hadn't greenlit us doing a lot of things out and about, with everything, so I had to politely decline. But I'm glad that he invited me to come back today, because he told me there was going to be food here. And, my body's a temple, Jeff. I don't use the donut word. So. But there's two things that cops don't joke about, and that is food and directions. So I'm here to partake. But he did ask me to earn my keep a little bit and just talk about some crime statistics with regard to the effect COVID had on our crime and specifically on our youth and all that. So, I'm pretty fluent in neighborhood watch and crime prevention measures and things like that, but I actually had to do a little bit of Googling for some of these studies and things that have been done on how COVID and the lockdown has affected people in general. I know it affected me and probably everyone in this room to some degree, but really how it's kind of had a negative impact on our kids. I know even in my own family, not my kids, but my niece and some other kids in the family, you tell them they can't go to school and you take that social element out of their life, that's pretty traumatic. I had a niece, she missed a homecoming, she missed basically her whole senior year of high school, and that was pretty traumatic for her. And then you just multiply that by how many tens of thousands of kids we got just in Hillsborough County alone. It's pretty, it's a negative effect on their self-esteem, behavior, all that kind of stuff. So just a couple of things I wanted to touch on statistic-wise. That kind of lean towards where we're going with this. So, statewide, let's see, we got 1.5 million people in Hillsborough County. Okay, so kind of put some of this in perspective. Statewide, we're talking about crime being up or down and how COVID affected it. So you've got, and this has been the trend for a number of years, where property crime, and just kind of come back to the neighborhood watch element. We tell people to lock their doors, 80% of vehicle burglaries occur to unlocked vehicles. That's property crime's been going down. Ask the sheriff, he'll tell you himself. Property crime has been down for a number of years, and that's kind of been the trend. But the uneasy trend, the thing that really should stick the hair up on the back of your neck, is that violent crime is up. And that's nationwide, and actually after COVID, a lot of these studies that I found are starting to find that now it's a worldwide kind of phenomenon with some of this lockdown stuff. Just in the state of Florida, let's see, in 2019 we had 91 violent crimes. So those are your murders, your rapes, your robberies, those crimes against people, assault and battery, things like that. 2020, we're up to 82,941. So that's over almost 2,000 more, things that are just in the state of Florida. And when 2021, we're still, the last month of 2021, but, those numbers are probably expected to rise. So, looking specifically in Hillsborough County, murder, robberies, aggravated assaults, those were, they're all up. So 2020, 81 murders, 650 robberies, and 3,201 assault and batteries. And assault and battery, the way that the state, anybody can go to, by the way, if you wanted to know how to research some of this stuff yourself, anybody can go, FDLE keeps all these uniform crime reporting stats. And they actually will subcategory a lot of them based on domestic violence and youth and juvenile, all that kind of stuff. Juvenile misdemeanors are classified. So a lot of, the felonies will be in there, but they will be, unless you do a lot of hard digging, specifically in the reports that were written, it's hard to tell which ones are juvenile related and all that kind of stuff. But the trend, statewide, in the U.S. and worldwide now is that domestic violence is up. And I just want to share one of these things, a couple of these things I found when I was doing. It says, in the wake of COVID-19, pandemic trends regarding domestic violence are starting to emerge on a global scale. Reports from local police near the epicenter of COVID-19 in the Hubei province of China indicate that domestic violence incidents tripled in February 2020 compared to February 2019. The effect in the U.S. of COVID pandemic on domestic violence is just starting to be realized in anecdotal reports. There's limited data to assess how domestic violence has changed following the application of stay-at-home orders. So to kind of put this in perspective here locally, we locked down in 2020, March 17th, right? That was when the governor issued the order to, businesses had to close, the restaurants, all that stuff. I was one of the deputies tasked to go around to all the bars and tell them, hey, I know you spent all this money on tents and the band's going to play for your St. Patty's Day festival tonight, but you got to shut it down by 2 o'clock. So we're talking about March 2020. And then the school, everything else started shutting down right after that. And nobody really saw the light of day. I mean, traffic was dead outside. If you can kind of remember back, it was scary. Nobody really knew what was going on. Well, you can ask any beat cop, what's the number one crime, we're responding to? The sheriff has done press conferences, news releases about. Number one crimes that we deal with now in Hillsborough County, and this is, again, a trend nationwide, domestic violence and mental illness. What did COVID affect? Have the two #1 increases on domestic violence, because everybody's locked up in the same house, and people's mental health. They're, whether they had an actual diagnosed mental health condition or affected their depression, Baker Acts, drug use, all that stuff exploded. And we're still counting all that stuff. So when it comes to what you guys are talking about here today, character GPS, and how important it is to focus on the youth, this is all kind of, you kind of see how, I believe the children are our future. Was that Whitney Houston? This, they emulate us. So if they see that stuff at home, they see that stuff, it's only going to compound as they come of age and spread. Statistically, just a couple of things real quick. U.S. adults in the U.S. 2020 versus 2019, 4 times more likely to have anxiety disorder or depression. Increases were the largest among younger people, right? They're not talking about teens. They're talking about late 20s or early 20s to 30. Anxiety and depression rose and fell in tandem with the number of COVID cases, and anxiety and depression also rose during the racial justice protests in June of 2020. So, we didn't have enough going on with COVID. Let's throw all this other, political strife and everything else in there. 2020 was a great year. We're going to get through it. Just in conclusion, the sheriff's office and law enforcement in general is reactive. I mean, as proactive as I would love to be, I didn't ever gotten into this job to sign, write police reports and all that stuff. We love catching bad guys. We love thwarting crime. I specifically have dedicated a huge portion of my career, my 19th year in law enforcement, to trying to prevent crime with crime prevention methods and crime prevention through environmental design. The sheriff's office, this is the first time I've seen this in my career, is they are now implementing, we have a behavioral health unit. Behavioral health unit goes out and works with the homeless population, but also has caseworkers and deputies assigned to for every time we get a Baker Act or mental health, and they deal with a lot of juveniles that are going through a lot of the issues and things that we're talking about today. Crisis intervention training, which they had been doing for a number of years, they revamped all that, and now there's a bigger focus on people's mental health and well-being and all that, and with different things going on with Project Safe Encounter, with autism or something like that. So law enforcement's trying to be mindful and proactive in that regard in dealing with it, but we are reactive in nature to kind of dealing with the problem. So let's get your big hook out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go eat now that the line's done. I appreciate Jeff and Debbie. I appreciate you all being here today. Thank you very much for having me and letting me get up and talk to you.
So, Chris obviously giving us a perspective from law enforcement, on how tough it is on our police trying to stay on top of this. And as he said, even though he wants to be proactive, you often end up being very reactive to the situations that we're in. And so one of the tools we created in Character GPS, taking those 10 behavior areas, every environment that we go into with kids, we realize that there's different dynamics going on. So we use this multiplier of how often are these things happening, what's the impact of kids, and to the, in case school or whatever group they're trying to accomplish, what it is. So Debbie and I worked at the Pasco Juvenile Detention Center for a year, trying to help kids get back on track, because they obviously knew that they had made some mistakes. And you can see, again, the pattern, that it all boils down to often low self-esteem. So with kind of the stage that Chris said with, the problems with mental health, we are very blessed to have Tom Edwards with us today, who's been a mental health licensed counselor for over 30 years, and of course with quite a background, Master's of Divinity and so on. So he's going to give us a little more insight into, if this is the symptom that we're seeing, what's going on underneath in the mental health area. So Tom, looking in the mirror, right?
Jeff for inviting me. I think it was came the very first time I actually had it here. We saw at the ball and we were doing big fundraisers and stuff. Privilege for me to be able to share things, information with you. We have definitely seen in our counseling center a huge uptake in the amount of counseling appointments with kids, because one of the things is some of us actually take the Medicaid, and so they're just calling like crazy to get kids in. So it's been a big problem and stuff. But Aaron Speaker has to start off too, because some kind of joke, right? So the other day, a therapist told his client that he needed to write a letter to all those people who hated, that he hated, and convert them. Of course, the client came back later on and says, "What am I supposed to do with these letters?" Alright, true story. True story. Mother of a violent 10-year-old daughter had just bought a gallon of spackle instead of a support group. So, yeah, bought a gallon of spackle on sale. And she was all excited about that, and she was sharing it with the group. And another lady who had a violent 16-year-old woman says, "Yeah, I just bought some too, and I just learned how to texture drywalls." Well, the two of them got together, and they actually started a company to go around helping out other clients, other people who have a lot of teenagers punching holes in walls and stuff. So it's amazing what can happen out of all these different types of pandemics. But some key things, I've got a lot of statistics for you guys on this. And the nonprofit Fair Health Investigators, which is an organization that reviewed over 32 billion health insurance claims in 2020. What they found was that statistically there was a 334% spike and intentional harm on 13 to 18-year-olds. And as of August of 2020, there was a 49.6% increase in depression, 67.5% increase in generalized anxiety disorder as compared to 2019. And the three big conditions that we're seeing between the ages of 13 and 22-year-olds in the past 2 years was anxiety, depression, and adjustment disorders. All these things exploded as of the spring of 2020. So we created truly a mental health crisis here. A lot of teenagers began to self-medicate between the ages of 13 and 18, a year-old group, claimed that drug overdoses increased by 95%. And 119% in April with chemical substances. Okay. And for substance abuse that stopped short of overdosing, they found that there was a 65% increase as of March and a 62% increase in that month afterwards. So Mental Health America, a nonprofit organization, actually looked at over 2.5 million youth in the U.S. and they found that had some type of severe depression, and multiracial youth were at a greater risk. Well, 15% of youth experienced a major depressive episode this year, which was a 1.24% increase from 2020 data set. In other words, it's still rising. It's not necessarily stopping just because we've gotten over the main crisis. There's a lot of after effect that's taking place. Of course, ages of 2012 to 17 experienced major depression. And over 60% of the youth with major depression did not receive any mental health treatment, even in states with the greatest access. Nearly 1 in 3 were going without treatment. So we have a lot of teenagers and youth and kids out there who are really struggling with the aspect of depression and anxiety. Also, one thing I wanted to bring up in the midst of all this is, nationally, 1 in 3 youth with severe depression receive the consistent mental health care. Even among those who with severe depression who received some treatment, only 27% were under consistent care. And there was an increase in anxiety and mode disorders among the adolescent population, consistent with studies during the COVID-19 pandemic. Adolescents had 4.4-fold higher rate of depression diagnosed compared to 6 to 11-year-olds. This tendency is particularly concerning because it has a link between depression and suicidal ideation. And then, in the midst of all this, in the midst of all this crisis, we had a bunch of kids at screen time, tons of screen time. And a lot of people don't even think about the problems that this actually causes. The American Academy of Pediatrics suggests that a reasonable limit of entertainment media, which they believe should be no more than 3 hours, okay? But in 2020, children between the ages of 8 to 18 spent 7.5 hours of entertainment to some type of media during this particular time. Of course, what happens then with behavioral problems, school-age children who watched TV or social media more than 2 hours per day, what they found was more likely to have emotional, social, and attention problems. Also, the issue of obesity. Too much time engaging in sedentary activity, such as watching TV or playing video games, can be a risk factor for becoming overweight. Also, in the midst of that, was sleeping problems. Screen time before bed can backfire. The light emitted from screens interferes with the sleep cycle in the brain and can lead to insomnia. And then violence, as we just heard from Chris, the increase in violence. Exposure to violent shows, movies, music, video games can cause children to become desensitized to it. Eventually, they may use violence to solve problems and may imitate what they have seen on the screen, according to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Whereas we, in the midst of all this, in this pandemic, of course, parents are trying to just do their thing, having to work from home even, and so we have how many times have we seen people use a screen to babysit their children? And so now locked down, stuck inside of a house, all they had was all that kind of entertainment. They couldn't get out. They weren't playing ball. They weren't doing all those good things that we need to. And so we've seen an increase that's happening. And so maybe sometimes we've seen it on a YouTube video or something like that. I remember seeing not too long ago, a little two-year-old. The parent puts a cell phone inside the kid's hand, and it's how it's like super happy and punching on it. The moment they pull the cell phone away, the kid has an unbelievable hissy fit. It's amazing what can happen. We have seen the addiction rate. You take a phone away from a teenager, and they will go wild, absolutely wild, because the chemical responses that are taking place inside the brain with that much screen time, it's an addiction. It literally leads to a massive addiction. So we've got to be aware that this pandemic really created a lot more problems than what we actually think sometimes. In fact, the National Institute of Health had a study that started in 2018 and indicated that children who spent more than 2 hours a day on screen time activities scored lower on language and thinking tests. And some children with more than 7 hours a day of screen time experienced a thinning of the brain cortex, the area of the brain that relates to critical thinking and reasoning. So guys, one thing I can encourage you, if you have children, be careful. Be willing to monitor the screen time. And they may fight the heck out of you on that, but be willing to definitely limit the amount of time that they're doing it. In fact, according to the Journal of Academy of Children and Adolescent Psychiatry, untreated clinical depression, impulsive aggressive traits may have ready access to firearms, social disconnection, and violence in the home or community have all been linked to, of course, youth suicide. And social media has been indicated as a major issue. The controversial and popular Netflix show 13 Reasons Why about the suicide of a young girl was associated with nearly 30% jump in suicide rates among youth between the ages of 10 to 17 in April of 2017, months after the show had debuted. What they see, the things they're seeing on the screens, has a huge impact. So what we got to do? We got some recommendations here. Okay, we got to be willing to view young people with unconditional positive regard and see them as the potential to grow and be healed through grace. That's why I think with Character GPS is trying to definitely do that, trying to help these kids see that they're important, they're significant. So this organization is doing a great job. We also need to maintain significant values and spiritual beliefs without becoming judgmental or imposing them. In other words, we've got to be willing to work with each person and not just try to impose it, but we're willing to work with them with dignity, letting them know that they are important and significant. We've got to be willing to acknowledge, learn about, and develop empathy for distinct needs of young people, helping them to understand shame and grace. We've got to accept and love people where they are and encourage them towards growth and change and a graceful journey, and build a base of general knowledge of how healthy beliefs and developing good character can impact their lives. And you need to keep learning, telling, becoming a dispenser of compassion and God's grace to representatives of healthy love to bring people into freedom and self-acceptance and better relationships, helping them learn how to be authentic people. Once again, connecting to their humanity, understanding who they are, and then who I am, understanding who God has truly created them to be. So we've got to literally help them choose authenticity. And authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of what we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. And we do that by cultivating the courage to be imperfect, to set boundaries and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, exercising the compassion that comes from knowing that we are all made of strength and struggle, and nurturing the connection and sense of belonging that can only happen when we believe that we are enough. So authenticity actually is the key in many ways. Authenticity demands wholehearted living and loving even when it's hard, even when we're wrestling with shame and fear of not being good enough, and especially when the joy is so intense that we're afraid to let ourselves feel it. So we've got to be willing to work on that. Mindfully practice authenticity during our most soul-searching struggles is how we invite grace, joy, and gratitude into our lives. Do that. So as we work with these kids, and as Jeff continues to work with these kids, continue to support organizations that are trying to help these kids overcome a lot of this mental health issues, because it's going to continue to happen for a period of time, so we can get things turned around. GPS, Character GPS, is actually one of the organizations that works to try to make that happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So as we've heard from a couple of our speakers, obviously we've been through some tough times. By the way, Tom's services are obviously desperately needed, and he has 2 locations and has been ministering to a lot of kids and families here. So what the realization, as we kind of formulated the idea of the need for Character GPS even 10 years ago, needed more now than ever, is that we noticed that often people, when they see kids having trouble, they ask the question, what's wrong with this child? You know, that they see behavior and they say, oh, there's something wrong with that child. But they don't realize that they don't really have the proper training to understand that child, as Tom and as well as Chris was explaining. And so teachers often look at kids as being behavior problems and not really understanding what is going on with those kids. So a better question to ask is, what has happened to this child? That's the real understanding. If we look at the trauma, and of course, over these last 2 years, the trauma has only multiplied. But if we understand the scope of the trauma, how long it's occurred, and so on, we start to get a better insight into what's happening with our kids, and we're able to operate, as Tom was saying, with greater compassion rather than just frustration. So if you add on to it, the kids are also victims, as Chris mentioned about domestic violence, things that are outside their control even, and they have to be then placed in other environments for their safety, the 2 main causes being substance and domestic violence. It just, again, this further multiplies the challenges that kids are facing. And as we have been sharing over these 5 years during our luncheons, we've had some great speakers like Dottie talking that there's even greater problems that are often hidden with human trafficking. And that people often, this is unseen, it's kind of behind, they don't cover it often in the news, you know, it's just people going on their lives not realizing the tragedy of what's happening to our kids as they're being trafficked. So all these factors multiply together, and we start to see then that the results that Chris and both Tom were sharing with you just seem to get worse and worse. So this is a challenge. We need to own up to it, we need to face it, we need to prioritize it, and the good news is that there is an approach that we can take, and that's what Character GPS has been designed to do, because trauma interrupts the natural development of kids. So just like the 10 years we've been doing Character GPS has flown by pretty quickly, I'm going to go pretty quickly through some of this as well, so that you understand, though, that I think we all understand that there's a great need. But the real key is the truth. We need to know the truth of what's happened to our kids, not just what's wrong with our kids. And so we have to start helping kids to reprogram what they have started to believe about themselves. And as Tom was saying about authenticity, is instead of thinking, I am a victim, we need to help them believe that they are victors. Instead of they can't be responsible, we help them have to believe they can make good choices. Instead of, you know, I'm broken, and that's often then the excuse that oh, it's a broken kid, so you can't expect anymore. We have to help kids realize that they are capable and build their confidence then to work in that way. But often, again, the low self-esteem, I'm not smart, but actually we teach the kids at GPS how their brains learn. We empower them. And one of the key words that Tom was talking about is that they begin to believe that they're worthless, when actually we know that God made them priceless, and nothing they can do or anyone else can do can change that. So we have to help them realize that they have talents. They can then build a better future. They don't have to fit in or survive, but they can actually take a leadership role and then help other kids that are struggling as well. And so in GPS, we help them realize that they can be part of teams. And whatever that family unit is or how they build their families, they can be a part of the solution rather than feeling like just a victim to it. So this is kind of the approach that we took in designing Character GPS. It actually started out as a 10 Commandments class because we're trying to help these kids understand there's a moral code we have to live by. And so we took these values from it, and we realized that the real mission field was all the kids out there. And so our goal was then to inspire, equip, and teach the kids how to do what Tom was saying. How do we get them to have good character and develop leadership and restore the hope in their lives? So Character GPS was actually born back in 2011. We applied to get our 501c3 with the IRS in June 14, and we did a pilot of that 10 Commandments class and then realized that we could expand that to reach all kids. So we worked on the careful design, and so our birthday is December 1st. 2011 was when we had all the core materials together for our program. So let me just very quickly help you understand what our approach was, what we believed was needed. It was to take a holistic approach for kids, all aspects, not just academics, but their spiritual, academic, social, emotional behavior, the whole child. And then we had to realize that kids have been affected by all these things. So we had to help them open their minds. And so just like a parachute works best when it's open. So we have an elementary, a middle school, and a high school version of our program. But the key is that when we deal with high school students, we have to realize we're in problem correction mode. They've already started to believe things about themselves and their environment that are not true. And when we work in middle school, it's like problem confrontation. They're in the middle of it. And you have add hormones, it's even more. But if we can reach kids early on in elementary, where that parachute is a little more open, we have the best opportunity to have the impact before some of the damage and trauma takes effect on them. But we work with kids at all levels because kids need the help wherever they're at. So the key is we have to help kids learn how they operate. And it's all about habits. They have to desire to break bad habits and build new habits, learn the knowledge to do things that are going to be constructive in their lives, and then practice it. The research shows it takes about 30 days to break a bad habit, a behavioral habit, and then build the better habit. So we built this into the design of our program that wherever they are today, we want them to believe that there is a great future ahead of them. There's hope and a future, no matter what they've been through. If they don't believe there's a hope and a future, then they are really struggling, and it's hard to help them move past and open that parachute. So we always say to the kids, what's the shortest distance between two lines? And of course, it's a straight line. But all of our kids, all of our lives, we have some distractions, right? So we help design in our program toolkits to overcome the distractions that the kids have in their lives so they can get from today to their future. We always ask the kids, can you change your past? And Taylor will say, no, what can you change? Your future, right? And so the key is to help kids then teach them in ways that they can relate to. So we use a lot of different metaphors like driving in a car. Okay, the rear view mirror is small to look back at what you're doing, but the goal is to look forward through the big windshield. So we have to help kids get that kind of mindset going. So we've used the compass as that directional tool. It always points north. And of course the modern version, the kids always like the modern technology, is a global positioning system. But when we're in a Christian environment, since we've taken those principles, they're universal, we can teach them everywhere, but when we're in a Christian environment, then they also learn that it's God's principles of success. That's what really is steering them along to get around the challenges in life, just like you would trying to drive your car. You've got to navigate your life, and you have to have a plan on how to get there. So one of the key things that we help kids to realize about their behavior is, do you want to be a weather vane or a compass, right? Now, just like a weather vane, it points in what direction? And Nicholas would say, any direction. Right, wherever the wind's blowing, right? But we want the kids to realize that you need to go in the right direction, not based on your feelings, but what you need to do to be successful in life, right? So if we always though operate as a weather vane, you'll hear kids say, I don't feel like doing my homework. I don't feel like going to school. I don't feel like doing things that they know they probably should. That's this, again, weather vane approach. And you can justify it because they have other kids that are doing the same things, right? But instead, we want them to think about being a leader. Follow the principle, do the right thing, and other people will start following you. So instead of sad living where you focus on yourself, you're always going to be disappointed. We are the richest country in the world, but we have the most disappointed people in the world, right? So instead, we want them to focus on a GPS approach. So they are being guided, they're practicing making good choices, and instead of just thinking that luck is a shake of the dice, it's really based on the decisions that you make. So we teach the kids how their brains actually work. The primitive brain is when they're traumatized, they react, just like their animal instincts. But when they learn to use their frontal lobe, which is the thinking ahead and understanding the consequences of their decisions, now they start to make progress and they start to heal from the trauma that they've had in the past. But we also have to remind the kids, how old are you when your frontal lobe is fully developed? It's about 25. So I always ask the kids, okay, how many are 25, right? And a few kids will raise their hands, right? But they don't realize they need to be coachable. They don't have all the tools yet to be successful in life. So this is the kind of change that we coach the teachers, the parents, the environment that you create. Instead of reacting to kids, you need to lead kids. You need to help them believe that they can follow a path of success and healing. But if you just allow the kids to fall from their trauma and continue down that negative spiral, then they're never going to really be able to heal and move forward and be successful in life. So this is one of the key things that we test with our kids and we test with our partners, is to test their own understanding of what the kids' needs are. So we use the iceberg as a model, that you take the principle, you value it, you put it to good habits because it's what's on the inside of you. The tip of the iceberg is what we see, that's the behavior, right? But what's going on the inside is where we learn the values. So like for instance, truth, right? So we teach the kids, again, you have to want to be a truth keeper. And that takes 30 days of practice before you start to see the results that you are a truth keeper, that you are someone who's reliable. So our 7 toolkits are like climbing a staircase, and the highest level of maturity is teamwork. But a lot of kids don't have great models of teamwork, especially if they're not in sports or other performing arts. If they look at their families as a team, they get a very distorted view of what it really takes to be successful in life. So we help them rebuild this. So our tools are like building stepping stones. If you think of this like being a stream, a river, the current, trying to pull the kids away, but if they have stepping stones, they can get to their future. And so we help them build the belief that proactive responsibility is the first step. Don't blame other people, take responsibility for your choices. Then, as I was raised, my last name's Kane, 7 kids in our family, we were raised with a can-do attitude. It sounds corny, but in our family, you couldn't say you can't do something, because my parents would say, your name's Kane, you can't do it. Right? The kids remember that. It sounds corny, but the kids remember that. But it saved a lot of time, because we didn't waste time with excuses. We worked on solutions. So then we discovered that everyone has God-given talent. So when talents are discovered and understood, kids realize that they do have value, that they are made priceless. But then they have to have a vision. What am I going to do with it? Am I just surviving? I'm just trying to fit in, whether it's middle school or high school, or am I really looking at my future to see how I can make a difference in the world? That's what we get the kids start to believe in, because that's the real root of leadership, is that you can make a difference. Then you have to manage yourself. 3T, managing your time, temptation, and treasure. And when they start to realize wasting time, you can never get time back. Temptations have to be managed proactively. You don't have to fall into temptation, you can prepare for it. And of course your treasure, you have to use it wisely. But most of the kids, when they get money, they want to spend it right away. Learning the discipline of saving for something important is the key. Then meaningful relationships. You notice relationships is much further down the road, because they have to understand themselves before they can have healthy relationships with other people. Then relationships are the foundation to our TLC, Teams Love Collaboration. And when they learn these 7 toolkits, they are now capable of getting to a bright future. So this is the roadmap. These are the 7 toolkits. You can see the values are taught within this, but it all accumulates to a graduation. And our students that are here today, that are going to be receiving an award, will tell you that graduation, GPS graduation, is something really memorable because it all comes together. They realize that they're equipped and capable to pursue their dreams. So they actually articulate what they've learned about themselves, and they receive a challenge coin that they're going to say, hey, I'm going to take responsibility to change a bad habit. And we run into a lot of our students, Debbie and I, and we see them at the mall or something, and say, how you doing? And they'll pull a challenge coin out of their purse or their wallet or whatever. Say, hey, I'm still working on it, right? Because they've taken ownership and control of their life. The second part is the dog tags, and I put that over their heads and I looked them in the eye at graduation, right? And Nicholas graduated twice, so he knows how it goes, right? But I look him in the eye and say, you are equipped, you are capable to pursue your dreams. And whatever age that child, they begin to realize they are capable. And so Gemma and Bella, have gone through this and coaching other kids, they share that belief, because when you believe it about yourself, then you can share it and help other people believe in it as well. So the graduation, it was a big march, make a big deal out of it. So let me kind of quickly now try to take through what have we done with the 10 years. So we started then, again, when's our birthday, December 1st, right? We then plotted a couple pilot groups. And our first was with the urban youth. Russell, where's Russell? There's Russell, right? Give Russell a hand. We partnered with Russell, the Boys and Girls Club. And we recruited adult mentors to help the kids, coaching them along the way with each of the different toolkits that they learned. Our second pilot was with Metropolitan Ministries. Now these again are homeless families at that time. And again, believing in a great future was very hard for them. But again, giving them the tools, giving them the hope, changed their lives. And we could just see it in the short period of time of our program. And then we piloted at Berkeley. So we're all our Berkeley people, raise your hand. We got lots of Berkeley partners here. And so at Berkeley, we had the pleasure of having upperclassmen mentoring younger-classmen. So we got a 2-for-1. The younger kids are learning, the older ones are realizing they have to kind of model this behavior, and they felt some ownership in that. So then we kind of refined our mission statement at this time by the end of 2012, and our commitment that this is what God's called us to do, and we're going to stick to it no matter what. So one of the tools that we developed from our 7 toolkits is, just like there's an IQ for intelligence quotient and an EQ for emotional quotient, we believe that there is a character quotient. And by being able to measure on these 7 different dimensions, we're able to start to identify the root problem of what kids are really struggling with. And then we have the kids assess themselves. So they circle, where did I think I start, and how far did I develop? Now, this is obviously not an accurate tool for a child, but what it measures is their self-esteem. They believe that they've grown in these areas. But we can use it with parents, we can use it with teachers to, again, validate that we can get to the root cause of some of the challenges our kids are facing. So we've been developing these tools as we went along. So then in 2013, we partnered with the YMCA. Where are our YMCA people? Raise your hand. There they are. Give them a hand. Doing great work. And so we partnered with their after-school program at Twin Lakes Elementary. And again, 75% of those kids are on assistance, for lunch and so on. So again, they needed tools to help them overcome. And when we said we were going to have a graduation at the end of the semester, they all said, parents aren't coming. That's just not happening. All the parents came. The kids were on their cell phone, calling their parents, you got to come to my graduation, right? Because they were proud of who they were. And then we took the program to Haiti. And we taught 72 teachers in Haiti that had no formal teacher training, because our program is very rich in methods, which makes the program fun. It's not a boring program, it's very engaging. So we helped them to understand how they could apply these programs, again, to situations where poverty could be seen as hopeless, bringing hope and bringing the tools to help them achieve that. So then in 2013, we had our first GPS board. And so again, trying to build as we're going along here. And then our Stewart friends partnered with us with the LEAP program. Kids that have fallen behind, we want to help them get caught up. Where's all our Stewart friends? Wait. Well, Dr. Wilson believed in this program, and we've actually been working with her and still are now for 7 years. So RB was our keynote speaker and believe me, when RB speaks, kids are listening, right? So gave them some real inspiration there. So then from Stewart, we then developed the idea of a GPS club. So once the students went through the program, how do we keep reinforcing it? So every quarter, we would work with Beretta and her team, and Ray Robin back there was our partner, and Ramona, and we would then measure how well they're doing, and we would bring in heroes. This is Colonel Carrington from MacDill Air Force Base to come in and help reinforce the values. Now, the way the kids got into then that club is they had to show improvement. They had to earn it. And I'll show you some of the scores here in just a second. Then we partnered with the Center for Girls. And we had a great model there where we had older girls and younger girls going through together. And so by mentoring and partnering together, we got to see another set of dynamics that was a lot of fun. Octavia, did she make it? There she is, yeah. Give her a hand. Her daughter's in our program there. So we had a lot of fun with being able to focus and empower the girls that often feel low self-esteem and don't feel that they have some of the opportunities that give them the tools to be successful in life. So then we applied, with the help of Tina Miller here, to the Department of Juvenile Justice to get some more resources, and we then earned a grant from the Department of Juvenile Justice to get us then where we could start reaching more kids. And then they liked what we were doing, so then they asked us to develop a guns and gang awareness component, and it's just been building that partnership ever since. So what we did at Stewart was we then actually tracked their tardies, their attendance, their grades, in-school, out-school suspension, and the kids took ownership that they had to improve in those areas to punch their ticket to come quarterly to the GPS club where they then got free pizza. Kids will do about anything for pizza before, right? So this was, again, another strategy working creatively with Dr. Wilson and her team. So we continued to bring in, and Laura Harris from Channel 11 came in to inspire the kids, and we just kept bringing more leaders in. And then we worked with Children's Services, and Tina, again, our partner there, who saw, wow, what a great program that we can use and work together. So she brought us into Children's Services, and now Tina has gone on, that she's now building this whole new victory school for kids overcoming addictions. And we're excited to bring GPS into that school as well. So then we partnered with ACTS. Those are kids recovering again from addictions. And we brought tools, again, bringing in hope for them. And Rex Barbas was one of our keynote speakers there, as well as RB did a group. And then, of course, we've been working all along with Stewart. Well, one of the groups that was a remedial group, this is kind of like their last chance. And they really went through, and Ray helped us keep those kids focused. And some of the kids then created a GPS rap song. They could start relating what they were learning to what was meaningful to them. And then we partnered with Hope Street, again, in Sulphur Springs, again, a very depressed area, partnering with Idlewild. Do we have anyone from Idlewild? I wasn't sure. Yeah, there we go. Idlewild, yeah, from Hope Street. Again, an opportunity where we can partner together and help give tools to equip kids. And of course, this is one of my favorite pictures. You can imagine all the tons of pictures trying to go through and say, well, we're going to highlight here real quick. But at the YMCA and both sides, the kids just love GPS. And so with the YMCA reinforcement they were getting, it was just a perfect match. And this is at their graduation. They get to pick prizes for the chips that they've been earning, reward chips. And the kids, you know, we just have all these prizes out for different ages. And the kids, the boys were grabbing ties, because they already saw that they are going to go out in the world and have, you know, great impact, and they were proud to wear ties. It's pretty incredible. So then we were adding more board members to our team, like Sid Miles in the back. How about give Sid a hand? And then working with foster kids, the kids that have been really struggling. And Zoya was one of those that went through our program. She was Baker acted, she was suicidal, we didn't know that. And in 1 week of our summer camp, she got up at graduation and told us how she was turning her life around. Now again, with a lot of trauma, you don't fix things overnight. But she's been working at it with the support of her aunt and uncle. Where's Tina and there they are. And Bruce, they've been really helping her. But Tina then turned around and started mentoring other kids in the foster program when we partnered with Eckerd. So just continuing to look at where we can find synergies to help each other to work along. And then we got to work again with YMCA through the Dr. Gills and Heather are dear friends. They love our program. And so Dr. Jim was the keynote speaker for our first program there in Trinity. And then, of course, working with lots of different environments, where like youth groups, and so we work with Life Harbor. And Gail, I think she's back here with her husband, Julian. Getting away. Kids have been through a lot of trauma, really embraced the program, and Gail was right there. She saw that our program, she loved it, and we just immediately connected. And so our opportunities have continued to build. So at Berkeley, we had a summer camp for girls, again, trying to empower them. And then we realized that we needed more resources. So we kept pursuing more grants. And again, Tina was kind of helping us along the way there. And we then earned, again, greater recognition for our program because we measure what we're doing. We love teaching, but we actually measure the observation of the classroom, pre-test, post-test learning, action plans, applying it, and then actually the impact to the environment the kids are having. So we continue to build that. Then our partnership with our Bethel Lutheran friends. Wave again for, where's our Bethel Lutheran? There we are, right? First working with their Sunday school group, and then working later with their summer camps, and then we work with Generations Church Sunday School. So again, a lot of different opportunities as we go through the years. And then we've been at Grace Lutheran. So Nicholas is our representative there. Give him a hand for Grace Lutheran. He was in our summer program, and then he went through, we took the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades through all in 1 year, our GPS program. And then again, summer program at Bethel. And I'm going very quickly here, back to Stewart again. Dr. Wilson won another helping of GPS, so we're back there working with the AVID program right now. So as we've been moving along, we're just kind of trying to serve and trying to help kids in what we believe is needed. And we got this award out of the blue from the state. It's called the Community Heartbeat Award. And it just arrived one day. And we said, what's this for? And they said, because you kept your program open all the way through COVID. And we wanted to recognize your commitment. So, yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but every once in a while it is nice to have someone recognize that, hey, we're on the right track. Yeah. Now, a new thing, very quickly for Character GPS, is my brother Steve, who I mentored and coached, his little baseball team and everything else, and we've had a great relationship. Well, he's built our first GPS app. And so this is now on the Google Play Store. We're going to be developing a lot more because kids love their phones, right? And so we got to kind of reach kids where they're at. So this is an app where it actually matches the Bible verse to the adventure that it is based on. And so they go through and they get a verse up above. They have to pick the right adventure, and you scroll up and down previous post, and then you select it. And when it's correct, then here's a match. The bells ring, the ship is on the right track here, and it takes it through all questions. You get them all right, then you get a big, a Navy ship. If you get them all wrong, you get a little rowboat, that kind of thing. But it's kind of fun for the kids. Just again, reinforcements what kids need to be successful. So then we realized, okay, we have kids graduating from our program, becoming mentors for other kids. We needed another development level in their leadership. So we thought, well, we are an anti-bullying program. So we developed now our new anti-bullying mentor leadership club. The kids take an actual oath, a pledge against bullying, and they come up with strategies to handle how can they make a difference. And instead of just avoiding bullying, how can they actually make a difference? So I'm going to ask right now our first group of anti-bullying mentor leaders to come up here and receive their awards. Malik also is a graduate from Stewart Middle Magnet. So they all have taken, again, a pledge. They've created a strategy to overcome bullying. And The goal is that just one person can make a difference. If they create a positive pebble, we call it when you throw a pebble in, it ripples. Your leadership can ripple to all the kids around you. And Bree, just real quick, she has taken this to heart, and she has now developed a whole nonprofit of her own. We want to just share real quick what that's about.
So I started my own nonprofit, DAYS, Depression Awareness and Youth Suicide. I am there to help those who don't realize that the teachers around them don't have that training and understanding of what they're going through. I am there to help them have a helping hand, talk to someone that they actually understand. I myself have been there. I've gone through bullying for most of my life. Bullying started at 2 years old for me, and I'm still being bullied. So why not help those who are being bullied, who are becoming suicidal, having depression because of that? Why not help them?
So how about a hand? These are the future leaders right here. Give them a hand. That's a great job. You know, we've got to wrap up here. So we obviously, this is a team effort. You know, we can't do it just ourselves. We need all of you on the team. So again, Breeze has a goal. She's dreaming ahead of what she wants to do, and you can see she's living it right there. So we have to believe that nothing is impossible. And if we all work together, we can make a difference in kids' lives by building success and energy comes together to build synergy, right? So we got a synergy opportunity for you here, and that is that on your table, if you would grab, there's a donation card. So if you pass those around at each of your tables, it looks like this. And the first thing is that we all have talents here, and you can see that there's a lot of things that we need to build this ministry, this nonprofit to work well. And you can see especially like picture taking, our pictures aren't always in focus and stuff, so we need a lot of help, right? So there's an opportunity for you to see, can you help us in some area? But we'd like you at least to fill in this card so that we can partner with you and stay in touch and share our resources and information. And then, again, so you see there's mentoring, bookkeeping, all sorts of different things that a nonprofit needs help with. We try to put all our money to the kids so that we have very low overhead. So over 95% of all of our resources goes directly to the kids. So we're running a bare bones operation. On the back side of your card is the opportunity where then you can also help contribute. And so, you know, $60 pays for a class for a kid with all the materials. $300 gets them through a whole program. You see, again, the progressive opportunities here. And we're trying to build it so that we get our program to be video-based, so that we can then hand it over to Dr. Wilson, and her teachers can then multiply and teach the program on their own. So we developed a 10th anniversary mug, not available in any store, right? And it has one of our favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King about his young children, right? That they not be judged by the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. That's what, we're all equal. We all need to help each other along this journey in life. So for our 10th anniversary, we're kind of doing a special promotion here, that if you can donate at least $50, bring your card to the back table, and you can then have a Character GPS t-shirt being modeled by many of our graduates here, right? Not available in any store. If you can donate $150, we'd like to give you a shirt and a mug. So the mug is on the opposite tables over here, so take your card to the back. If you want to get 2 t-shirts and a mug, that's $200. If you'd like to get 2 t-shirts matching 2 mugs, that's $300. So again, as long as supplies last, whatever you can do to help, we need to multiply. We need to address these needs that we've talked about today. And we thank again Chris, and we thank again Tom for coming to speak to us. But now it comes down to kind of rubber hits the road, you know. This has been a great lunch. We're so glad you could come be with us. But we really need to start working on this problem now. So one of my favorite people, a board member, Earl Christie. Earl Christie, come on out. He's a Super Bowl champion. And he gives us just kind of a quick word as you're filling filling out your cards thinking about what we can do to make a difference. Quick word.
I'm telling you, boy, they put some pressure on me, boy. You know, if you're a Super Bowl champ, you're a minister, it's tough. He puts pressure on me, even when we have it. Let's give it up for one of the greatest organizations for young people in the world, on the planet, for Jack, lovely wife Deborah. What an honor, a great playground. I'm just so elated to be associated. First of all, I got to give honor to God, who is truly the head and center of my life. This program, I could talk about it all day. It's just amazing. And when you think about this wonderful program, I think about love. And that's the key factor. When I think about love, I think about the creator of the world. I know that's going to be the difference. You know, when we talk about children's future, no, children's present and future. God gave me that revelation. Just like that young lady, she's doing it now. It's making it happen. This is one of the greatest resources in the world. And of course, my good friend, R.V. Brown, does a great thing for young people. I have been blessed to teach in 6 different states all over the United States. And what young people want is love and discipline. Just real quick, ABCs. I've always been fascinated with the alphabet. And the A stands for attitude. Your attitude will take you to your altitude. It will take you as hard as you want to go in life. And then the B, believe. You got to believe and trust in each other. We got to love one another. Those greatest commandments. And then the S. I'm sorry, the C. The C. I was thinking about GPS. The C. What would you think the C would be? Champion. Have the spirit of a champion. Winning in life. Now, I know we're going to help this great program. I'm so happy to be part of it. As you said, those t-shirts back there, $100 donation, that's like $1 million for saving a young person. I know it works. I've been doing this over 50-some years, working with young people to see, you know, we all were born for greatness. That's the key. That's the key. And I'm just so grateful to my lovely wife, Darlene. We came up with a t-shirt called Each One, Love One. We're big into respecting one another, caring for each other. And my grandmother used to say, people don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. And that's what it's all about. So I know it's going to give me the cane because I'm telling you, I'm so grateful. Get your mugs today and donate to this because you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your family. May God bless you. God bless this wonderful.
So maybe, Earl, we have the Character GPS Hero Award. Would you say that Earl is a hero? Then on our board, and a keynote speaker, and an inspiration to all of us. All right, so pulling this together here now, we want to recognize that we have had some real great supporters. Jeff Hearn and Hearn, Hoyt, and Ramsey has been a table sponsor for all 5 of our annual events here. So we have an award for Jeff. Is someone here to accept this for Jeff? Who? Okay, they have to go. They have to go support him. All right. So anyway, we really appreciate Jeff's support for our program. And then we have the award for Stuart. We've been partnering with Stuart the longest, and it continues on. So, Beretta, could you come up just real quick and receive award for our partnership? They are our #1 partner. It's Stuart Middle Magnet. Yep, we have a leadership award each year, and so Blake Stevens from Grace Lutheran, and now he's at Calvary, and so Nicholas is going to take the award home for him because he couldn't get out of class. Nicholas knew how to do it, right? So. Oh, yeah, that's right, he's his cousin. And also we have an award for Nicholas. Nicholas, you have been an amazing prayer warrior. How about a hand for Nicholas? Future leader, right? Good job, Nicholas. Also, then we want to recognize, did we lose that? No. That we have had keynote speakers inspire our kids at all the events. And I just hit the tip of the iceberg. We have done almost 100 different GPS programs. So I want to call up real quick so we can have a picture opportunity for our keynote speakers. So R.V. Brown, Bob Bradshaw, and for Soul Pitching, Crystal, she's here, Ray Robinson, and Earl Christie. Come on up. Many of you, these are our keynote speakers. If we could get over the years, get a picture of them together here. Get a picture of our leaders here. T-E-A-M. Got it? All right, and then one last award as we're wrapping up here is our board members, past and present. So R.V. Brown, Earl Christie, Bree Burke, Bob Bradshaw, R.V. Brown, Sid Miles, John Gowan, and Tina Miller. If you could come up here as well, we want to get a group picture of all the people who have been supporting this great ministry. Come on in. And I always look up to Sid from the very day that I met him. So thank you all for coming. So again, if whatever you can do, volunteer to help put your card in the envelope on the table. But again, if you have earned a t-shirt or a mug, if you would then go to the back and cash those in, deliver your card, they'll collect it from you so that you can get a GPS t-shirt and a GPS mug. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for celebrating our 10 years. Debbie and I, we've turned 60. So we said, okay, we've done 10 years, we're going to commit to 10 more years. All right? God willing. Again, an opportunity here for us all to partner together. So let's make a difference because our kids are our future. Thanks so much for coming. And come on into the back. So we need to cover our board members. If you can help us cover the back to collect the donor cards. If you can, just put your donor cards in the envelope that's on your table. Whatever, again, you can offer or other services you can provide. But thanks so much for coming. We appreciate you guys. Great lunch. 2022 is going to be a great year.